are you close? I'm Big May and I'm back! Well, hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel, my friends and colleagues. May I interest you in a bacon? I've got some bacon today. It's a greasy time. We're doing greasy stuff.
I need this dog to have some grease on it, so when I eat it, the grease will lubricate my throat.
I know that everybody out there is wondering, how do I eat this bacon when I have to consider things like the pandemic? You know, I've got this mask and I have to wear this mask everywhere I go, but I've got to eat this bacon. I've come up with this wonderful bacon eating method. Gone are the days of this. What do I do with it? This is a nightmare. I have to eat it, but it's not going in. You take your ceremonial blade that's carved with your name, and okay, I can't do this while it's attached to my face, or I'm thinking I might have to go to the hospital.
This man is truly mad.
Okay, on the count of 3, we tackle him. 1, 2, 3.
So this should sort of form like sort of a neat little hole, little pouch here. They call this the bacon hole. And then after you remove all the hair from your food, you're ready to begin snacking on your bacon. Wow. And isn't it delicious? To tell you the truth, I had dinner moments before I sat down to shoot this video. So this bacon that I made for this video was just sitting in my fridge because I haven't eaten it. Now I'm stuck with it. And speaking of grease.
Take me disco dancing, Big Ronnie.
I am the bacon queen now, bitch. Okay, enough of this. It's time to get serious about grease situations. There's this little known movie that came out a few years ago, and it has quickly become the hit of the fucking times. Like, it is the movie of the generation. You wanna know what movie I turn on at parties? 100%, always, The Greasy Strangler. It's my go-to classic, and it has been for years.
I've been making my own olive oil in my bedroom, extra virgin.
Why is it that it continues to be the only film that tickles my funny bone? Am I really that desensitized to humor? Is it that hard to make me laugh that someone has to do something this extreme and also extremely stupid? Do I just like to suffer? I probably do.
I thought free drinks were included in this tour.
No, there's no free drinks.
Free drinks now.
No.
We must have free drinks.
I don't know where you got that idea.
Said in the brochure.
The information you got is bullshit.
So, The Greasy Strangler. There's a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of subplots, and there's a lot of main plots, and it's the kind of movie that just can't make up its mind of like what exactly it wants to be. So it decided, I'll just be everything. I'll be everything. The movie starts off, and it's very pure, childish comedy. A lot of jokes at the expense of like cinema itself. Many of the jokes are editing jokes, over-scripting jokes. There's a scene where there's a boom mic in the shot, and I think it's intentional. Filmmaking jokes. In a movie that doesn't explicitly make filmmaking jokes, it's almost like this movie hates movies themselves and wants them to die. And with that, I can tell you that the movie is about a serial killer, and it is a comedy.
Someone's a grouch today.
You don't care.
You know, I feel like a lot of movies that are like, haha, this movie's gonna be a serial killer comedy. But you've gotta see these movies on streaming sometimes. Movies about ooh-woo, so soft serial killer, make jokes, comedy films.
Maybe a mistake.
What was maybe a mistake?
Me getting in this car with you. You might as well be a serial killer.
Greasy Strangler is the only authentic one because it treats them as disgusting as they absolutely are. So when I say that he's a serial killer, what I mean is they found an old man, a very strange man, a disco man, an old dirty man with a giant dick, and they covered him in grease and had him go about strangling people in a desire for both blood and grease at the same time. Sort of a grease goblin he becomes. And I know that we all kind of have a tendency to occasionally become a bit of a grease goblin. Damn there. This immaculate creature from hell is named Big Ronnie.
I'm Big Ronnie and I'm back!
And he lives up to his name. Unfortunately, he does have a son that does not live up to his name, and that is Big Braden.
And I'm shit scared. I'm shit scared right now.
Big Braden, Big Ronnie. Which one do I like? Well, one likes to smile, and one likes to shout.
Yeah. He likes to shout. I like to smile.
You cheesy old cornball.
Yeah, that's what I am. I'm a cheesy old cornball.
Sort of the difference between their characters, it's introduced in the first scene. Clearly, Jim Hosking, the director, has a clear understanding for cinema.
Emailed my friend Toby, who I wrote The Greasy Strangler with, and I said, oh, I really want to make a film with this guy. And Toby replied and said he could be a greasy strangler.
You understand that this is a father-son tale of love and woe, of experience and inexperience, of misogyny and other such things. Here, baby. Have you joined the grease feast? We'll just ignore her for now and get back to what we were talking about.
You'll have to go get a dog.
Not a real dog.
Yeah, don't bite into a real dog.
Don't bite into a...
Woof! You two can fuck off tonight.
So it's a classic, like, love triangle movie, but it's completely on its head. The movie follows, like, a father-son disco tour duo, one of which is a serial killer, as they both try to woo a lady named Janet.
So, does your mom live with you too?
She left when I was small.
Well, that's crapola.
And oh, what a lady she is. Queen. Queen sweater, queen hair, queen merkin. We love Janet in this house.
You cheesy old cornball.
However, and I cannot stress this enough, the movie appears to be directed by a fucking garbage pail kid. Like, I kid you not, it's like written and starring exclusively garbage pail kids. The whole time, it's a grease feast. There is disgusting, horrible food throughout the entire film. And don't we love that? Horrific bodily dismemberment, cannibalism, and some of the most awful sex that you've ever seen in your entire life. And let me tell you, I've seen some bad sex. But like a certain other film that I've recently spoken about, this movie also deals with my favorite subject apparently, which is cucking. It's a cuck fest. We got a cuck fest, everybody. This movie is also ironically about this weird, the alpha beta stereotype in men, and how like Big Braden is like a beta man who likes comic books and has a tiny penis.
I want to write fantasy novels someday.
What will the book be called?
The first one's gonna be called The Amulet of Arg. Arg is the reluctant keeper of the Trolls realm.
And likes love and is a romantic type. You know, like me. And Big Ronnie is sort of like your dad, only he has a bigger dick and he's very intimidating. And he's a serial killer, like your dad. We can all relate to that, right? Was I the only one, Cindy? Dad, if you're watching this, I know your secret, bitch. Big Ronnie is definitely painted more as like the alpha with the big dick and the way about making women like him and all of that. The gender politics of this movie.
I can't do that, mister.
Why not?
Oh, no reason. I think I might be in love with your son, that's all.
You're in love with Braden? Kiss my juicy cherry lips.
My God, like you would think that a movie as simple as like it's a guy who likes Grease and kills people, and it's a comedy where they kind of do like that Tim and Eric editing style where it's like the edit of the movie itself is like breaking down. It's just like a lot of off the wall, like almost quotable nonsense humor. I mean, everybody on the internet who's seen this movie loves to shout bullshit artist at everything, and oh boy, isn't that annoying.
Too much grease is bad for you. I read it in a fitness magazine someone left on the bus.
That's horseshit. You're a bullshit artist.
I mean hilarious. But by far, it's all about the gender politics. Understand that Big Braden and Janet's relationship is so cursed. They go on a date and Big Braden immediately opens up about like this horrible moment where his like stepfather made him exercise until he vomited.
Ricky Prickles was so mad, he smacked me twice in the face with the flat of his hand.
Ricky the Pricky.
Then he molested me.
Fucking did some not good stuff to him. And this is just here. They just talk about it. And then Janet's like, yeah, well, in my neck of the woods, I'm a little worried about being murdered by the Greasy Strangler. And then Big Braden's like, oh, don't worry about that. And that's sort of the end of that conversation. Big Braden is a terrible fucking boyfriend, and Janet knows this, and she's trying to make it work, but she's having a hard time.
The tourists I was with the other day were murdered.
So, like any adventurous woman would, she begins to consider other avenues. There just so happens to be a big Ronnie in the house, and she doesn't quite understand yet that he's the Greasy Strangler, a very bad murder man who she is worried about murdering her. But you see, her destiny was filled in this moment when she decided to break the heart of the Greasy Strangler, and also the Greasy Strangler's stupid son who crapped on the TV last week. She screamed it from a moving car as she left.
I don't care if he craps on the bed. I'll rub it on my tits.
Janet begins cucking her boyfriend Braden for his father, who has a much bigger penis and hung out with Michael Jackson once and apparently is the Spider-Man of Cocktown. So I've heard.
I normally shoot about 6 ropes of cum and then dribble a little of the clear stuff. But baby, I'm all about the ropes.
I want to be dead. I want to die. I'm going to eat bacon instead. Smattered in the middle of all of this is like a bunch of stuff about Braden and Ronnie's relationship, which is actually the core of the movie. Like, the movie disguises its true point. The first 2 points of the movie are all about like the gender politics between like Big Ronnie, Big Braden, and Janet. But then at the end, it sort of flips the script and you realize that it's always been about the weird, like, sort of codependent relationship shared by Big Ronnie and Big Braden. So there's this movie, you should see it if you haven't seen it. It's a documentary called Grey Gardens. If you're gay, you've probably heard of it because it's like an icon thing. It's kind of like the log lady, like that.
It's very difficult to keep the line between the past and the present. You know what I mean?
Grey Gardens is this documentary that follows these 2 people that are in a horribly destructive relationship. Like, it's a mother-daughter. Their house is falling apart. Their entire life is falling apart. Their health is falling apart. Everything is going wrong. And it's because both of them are in denial about how much they need each other, and so they're constantly fighting. They both hate each other and want to leave, but neither of them will ever leave. Like, they are destined to remain together because they feel this hideous codependence together. So the Greasy Strangler, while appearing to be a dumb dick comedy with some funky editing and some weird jokes, is actually about codependency. Check that out at your local library, my dude.
You'll leave and I'll die of loneliness. People do that, you know. They get so lonely that their heart stops and they die. But you won't care. You'll be too busy making love.
So like if you've ever experienced codependency in your life, you know that it's sort of a situation where that person is giving you something that you feel like you can't make for yourself or get anywhere else, and you think you can only ever get it from that person. In exchange, you give them something that they want that you don't necessarily consent to giving, but you have to give to get the other thing. So it's sort of this exchange, and it makes like simultaneously need and love each other, but also hate each other and want them to die. It makes them compete with each other, and it's very often the cause of a lot of father-son competition that goes on through adulthood. This movie actually handles father-son codependence in a fairly nuanced way.
Are you glad I moved in with you?
Hey, I'd rather be here with you than in New Orleans with John Travolta.
Can't talk too long. I gotta poo.
So let me explain. The end of the movie, Janet dies. Spoiler, Janet is murdered by Braden, who becomes a Greasy Strangler too, and they kill her in a movie theater. I wonder why it's in a movie theater. Braden chooses, in a moment, his father over his girlfriend because he feels like he can't sacrifice his relationship with his father.
I don't want this cunt to fuck you up and leave you lonely.
At the end of the day, he's always going to want to coddle his father more than he's going to want to feel any sort of happiness for himself. So in that moment, he's just like, I am going to decide to be what my father wants me to be, which in this moment is a serial killer and a murderer of women. You understand how these things get perpetuated, sort of a masculinity problem where things get perpetuated and women get mistreated by men because their father said so, and then they try to live up to what their father said because of this competition thing, and then they end up hurting women. It's like a metaphor, my friends. Like at the end of the movie, the whole last 10 minutes of the movie is where it gets really, really great, because they just sit on the beach and they talk about like their hopes and dreams and what they wanted for their lives and how they ended up in this shitty codependent relationship that they like can't get out of. And then at the end of it, they decide to just like roll with it. They've decided to just become the Greasy Stranglers. And there is a choice line that will always stick with me in my head, and it will always come to me in moments of need. I remember this moment whenever I realize that a man is mistreating me. Big Ronnie says to Big Braden, "We didn't need Janet anyway. She was disgusting." This is the ultimate irony of the world. She was disgusting. He says,
She was disgusting, wasn't she?
Gotta say, she was kinda gross.
even though like half of the movie he farts and shoots poop out of his butt at things, and they talk about that.
A big glob of turd flew out of his butt like a rocket.
It's disgusting. He eats a goddamn hot dog weird, and it's so horrible. They're horrible. They're disgusting. They cook with so much grease. It's disgusting. He goes to the hot dog vendor, he eats his eyeballs. He eats his fucking eyeballs. And they're saying that Janet, a fairly normal functioning person with a little bit of a sexual proclivity, is weirder and more disgusting.
She was gross.
Than two murderous, cannibalistic men. You understand? They cannot do anything wrong. They can't ever do anything wrong. However, a woman does anything disgusting. We didn't need her anyway. It is allowing the codependence to take precedent over the human desire.
Let's kill Ricky Prickles!
It's exactly something that happens in Grey Gardens for the most part. Verbatim reference this. Another movie, ironically, that is very similar to The Greasy Strangler and doesn't need to be, is a film called Grumpy Old Men.
Give it all
which is kind of like an Odd Couple-esque movie. I guess The Odd Couple is also sort of a codependence movie. There's a lot of movies that have tried to tackle this subject, and they almost always end the same way. Guy gets the girl, realizes he has some sort of internal flaw, decides to change it, even though he doesn't deserve this woman. He still gets her, and he accepts her, and he decides to like ease up on his life to allow this codependence to end. We've all seen a movie that ends exactly like that. But the Greasy Strangler decides that instead of having the easy solution, it's going to have the hard conversation about what's actually true, which in a comedy movie is very rare.
Do you like me? Are you a bullshit artist?
While a lot of people can look at the Greasy Strangler and think that it is hysterical and misogynistic, it is both of those things. It is those things to make reference to how this is how it is for women. This is how it is for like men growing up trying to compete with their fathers. This is how like basically one person's sexuality can influence multiple other people's sexuality even if they don't consent to it. They can influence other people's sexuality just by virtue of pretending that their sexuality is somehow better. It's a surprisingly complicated movie. It doesn't need to be, but it is. It's all painted in the last couple of moments out in the woods after killing Ricky Prickles, Braden's stepfather. They find a group of mercenary people with guns firing the guns like a firing squad at themselves, and they're like hung on crosses like martyrs, and they die. But they watch their Greasy Strangler self watch their real selves get killed by a firing squad. The very next shot is them walking up towards the camera at the top of this big mountain. They've completely devolved into like animals at this point, and they just stare at the camera, point a stick at us, and threaten us. And that's the movie. 'Tis the perfect encapsulation of everything, because it is literally choosing to be less human, more disgusting. More maybe in tune, not necessarily with one's desires, but one's lowest self. It is allowing one to become their lowest self for their parent. A reality that I think a lot of people in the growing economic divide are currently facing. I feel like a lot of people nowadays are spending a lot more time at home. Like, I was at home until pretty late in my life, and I can tell you without a doubt that you can't help but in those formative years, like, have that sort of thing in your mind. Like, your behavior will always be influenced somehow by your parents by virtue of the fact that, like, you spent so much time together. A lot of people, I think, have to kind of go through this period of trying to figure out who they are themselves based not on, like, the social programming they've kind of been given throughout their lives. You know, I like to think about it like this. Somebody with political views that are conservative when they grow up, but then later on in life, they kind of become more left-leaning because they think about it instead of being told what to think. It's like a process that one must go through to, like, get out of that situation.
I'm gonna expose the Greasy Strangler, then I'm gonna kill him.
So I feel like the Greasy Strangler basically relate to that situation a whole lot. It like paints it in a way that I think a lot of other films don't, that attempt to do the same sort of thing. It's the one that goes all the way, which is odd because it's also the one that like hates the audience the most, is constantly making reference to the fact that it's a movie and a bad one. and is completely filled with nonsense. I've done a clip compilation somewhere on my YouTube channel about this, but I could always do another one, so here's more great shit from the fucking Greasy Strangler. It's a good time for all, and it's a great excuse to let loose and become your most primal self. Sort of like altered states. You sort of devolve as a human. And by devolve, I mean eat more bacon. And this bacon is now super cold because I've been talking for a hot minute. Not even close to as good as when I cooked it. Not even close. This was a disaster. You should have emailed me. I could have given you one. Now they're soggy and gross. What am I going to do with you, son?
That's it for you, Colonel Crapper. Sergeant Shisley, you're evicted.
Thank you for watching my YouTube video. I've been May. I invented videos. I was the first one, and goddammit, I'll die the last one. I made videos before you were born, bitch. That's right. So you make sure and subscribe so you don't miss one, because they're all pretty important. And make sure and leave a like and a comment. Please don't comment on how arrogant or narcissistic I seem to be. I really am not that way. It's just something about this knife, to tell you the truth. It's got my name on it. It's like, whenever it's around me, I just feel powerful. I just, whoo! Get a little crazy. If you really like my content, which I don't understand, you should support me on Patreon for $1, maybe $2, maybe $3, $4 perhaps. You could go for $5, but if you're crazy, $6 or up. I'm not gonna continue to count. Like, I think you understand numbers. Hopefully you do, because I wouldn't pledge to someone on Patreon if I didn't understand numbers. You might be getting fucked there. Thank you for watching, my friends, and I will be seeing you along the old dusty trail, partner, and next time with something else that's big and unnecessary about something small and insignificant that you probably don't care about. Goodbye!
Tell you a secret. I am the Greasy Strangler.
Hey, I call bullshit on that.
A big glob of turd flew out of his butt like a rocket.